Hello, friends. Welcome back to our World in Focus.
This is Judah speaking here.
And this is Benji. It's been a while. It's nice to be back. So, Judah, we last spoke in April when you left me soon after. You went home from India back to the UK to finish your travels. I continued in India, then went to South Africa, then came back. So, it's been a while since we did last of the episode. It'd be interesting to see what's actually happened since then. And now both of us, since we first started the podcast, we're both off our travels officially. So it'd be interesting to reflect with you and hear your reflections.
Okay. Yeah. So I left you on April the 18th, I believe.
Friday, April 18th.
Friday April the 18th. So I'm not sure how long our podcast episode was before that.
But the beginning of April about Christian backpacking. You were in Missouri, I think.
Okay, yeah. So basically the rest of April, I don't know, that was just a mad week. The heat was super intense. Our friend David had joined us. And we basically had issues with accommodation, with transport, 2 fake tour guides as well, and a host of other things. But I was also nearing the end of my travels, and what Benji had hoped would be a quiet, relaxing few days were the most stressful days in our entire trip. And so that was definitely a challenge, you could say. So basically we were in the Golden Triangle, you could say. So we're in Udaipur, Jaipur. Were you in Rajasthan as well?
Yeah, Rajasthan's a state. Udaipur, Jaipur, cities.
Udaipur,
We
Jaipur.
were in Delhi and then Agra and Taj Mahal.
Yeah. So we
Probably that touristy stuff was probably our least favorite part of India, right?
Yeah, I think basically we did we're going to where some people, if they have only a small amount of time in India, will often prioritize kind of these big whopping attractions, you could say. But with the season as well, I think it was low season because the heat was pretty intense. I think people were more desperate to make money basically as well. So anyway, that was the last my last week in April, and then before that, Benji and I might have. I'm not sure if we talked about Punjab.
We did, but I mean, yeah, looking back, just in general, how do you view the India time for you?
Okay, so I think the India time was, when I think of it, I always say it's mad. The time in India, because of the different places we went. But also I just remember coming back and just the overload from India is the tuk-tuks, with the level of pollution, the the people, the such difference in cuisine and cultures. It was pretty crazy, I'd say. And then I still think coming back, my driving is, if I pull out in front of someone and it wasn't the correct thing to do, I don't have any remorse now. Where I think in the past I would have felt bad because, I've made someone slow down, maybe they beeped at me. I might just put my hand up or something and then not think anything of it and go forward. So I definitely think when I came back, my driving, even maybe like a month ago, there was a friend that was in the car, and we're finding his car. He'd parked somewhere nearby here, and he said, turn right. No, turn left again. And I was able just to do these maneuvers, and yes, probably upset. It wasn't unsafe, but upset the cars around me. And a Palestinian Norwegian guy next to me said, "Wow, that was impressive how you were just able to do those maneuvers on the fly." And I said to him, "I'm not sure if that's good or bad."
You're like
That
tuk-tuk driver.
and I was willing.
Yeah.
I was able just to do that. So like a tuk-tuk driver in India. So anyway, that's a bit of a side thing of when I think back of India, the things that we did, the different regions, each one was a very different experience of how healthy we were in each place and our experience of it as well. But overall, good I think we traveled a lot more around India if we felt, I don't know, I felt then East Africa. And maybe I think we moved more overall for India because we didn't stay in one place in as long as we did in Kenya.
Mm.
So I think India was much more challenging trying to fit in a lot of stuff in those 3 months. Um, so yeah, very intense, I'd say.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Because after you left, I went to volunteer at a eye hospital in Bihar, which was an incredible experience for me. I think one of my most rewarding optometry voluntary experiences in my travels, because they basically recruit girls and women from rural Bihar, which is a historically powerful state, but um, the poorest state in India at the moment. And they recruit girls and train them to become optometrists, and also some of them also become footballers as well, or play football. And it's just a really cool project that I've seen how eye care can empower. Um, so yeah, I was there for 2 weeks, and then soon after that, I went to South Africa, which I can update if we get around to it. But a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to maybe go back to the hospital next year, and the idea of returning back to India actually really excited me, which was funny. Like, I didn't know how I'd respond to that, but yeah, it was crazy in some ways, very foreign, in some ways very familiar. But yeah, I'd love to keep a connection to India, even to see family, to see more of the country. Is There's some really beautiful places, and yeah, I don't think there's anywhere else quite like it on earth. Yeah. Okay, so Julia, so you came back in April. So, tell me and the listeners what happened then. What was it like for you to actually come back? You're back at work after 12 months of your career break.
Yeah, so it's actually ended up being kind of close to 13 months when you factor in annual leave. So end of March until basically close to the kind of the mid or the end of April the next year. So pretty significant time away. Um, lots of experiences, good and challenging ones from the very beginning of that, where I did my own pilgrimage and picked up my dad's ashes and scattered them. Um, and that was in early 2024. So a year later, I think the great thing was we had very good weather in April. So you wouldn't have experienced it, Benji, but like it was good. Like sunny in kind of April, May, in I think June, July, August. So like a very good time to return in terms of the weather. And I started work less than a week later, just because that's how the career break had worked out, where I would have to use annual leave if I needed to otherwise, and I wanted to use that for summer instead. So I arrived back on the Saturday, I believe, or the Friday, I think, and then I started work on the Wednesday, the week after, and that was moving in initially with Simeon because the house that Benji and I had been in had been rented out,
So our other brother.
um, and so so I lived in my other older brother's house because the house where Benji and I lived in and were to live in or move into needed quite a bit of renovation work to do on just aesthetics because of the tenants and what needed to be done. So I remember just making it my goal and ambition to work on this house project, which is to kind of clean up different aspects of the house, organize for a cleaner to come in, someone to clean the carpets as best as they could because they were left in a bit of a state. And then I organized a paint party where my friends came round, helped redecorate a few rooms that were quite dilapidated, and also then a move-in party a few weeks later when I shifted stuff, Benji's stuff, and my stuff back into the house. So I remember being very motivated those first few weeks The weather was really nice. It was sunny. And so I remember cleaning a lot of the stuff that had been got quite dirty, well, really dirty from the tenants. And so it was nice. I was very focused, determined, and wanted to get the house ready before Benji arrived in July, but properly kind of settled in September. So that was a good time, and because of May bank holidays, not really working full
Mm.
5-day weeks, etc. And then I got offered a nose operation appointment with just 2 weeks' notice, and that was at the end of May.
You on the waiting list for like 2+ years?
2+ years basically. So I just basically moved into the house for a few weeks. So, and really enjoying being alone, independent, starting to pick up my own routines, like cooking and cleaning and organizing socials and having my own space. So it was really enjoyable those few weeks. But then had nose operation in middle of June, and I was off work for 2.5 weeks, and that was quite hard, I guess, to build back up. But also recognizing it was hard to be independent where you can't move basically very
You
much.
lost your independence.
I lost my independence, didn't go to church for like a month physically. So you're not around people for an infection risk. So that I think took me back, but then also like a fresh wave of, I'd say, grief hit me at that time. Of the likening the surgery. In one of the kind of previous newsletters, I called it, soul surgery was our traveling this year. And it was just like my nose, which got chiseled out. So short-term pain into breathing better. That's what the traveling had been for Benji and I. And so there was a very strong, that pain had kind of triggered, reflecting on the pain and the amazing things of our pilgrimage year. And that was June. Then it was July, August. Benji and I went traveling at the end of August. But then already I'm starting to work. This is the first time I worked full time in a job for quite a few years, because I was 4 days a week before. And then I just found myself flagging and losing, yeah, maybe losing concentration, a bit more fatigue, etc. And then until kind of middle of October, where I decided I needed to take some time off work just to recuperate and recalibrate. So I'm currently now still off work, and I'll be going back in December. That's the plan. So it's been an interesting one of basically maybe things being too intense, and then now needing a step back and figuring out to build my routines and different things back up again, and get my motivation back up again, which has been very low, I'd say. So it's been a very a punch of a return, you could say, and that's just my experience anyway.
Mm. So, yeah. And that's why I think that's why I wanted to record it at this time as well, just to show the full picture, I guess, of traveling, right? Because we've recorded episodes, I think, from being in Kenya, which would have been what, mid or towards the end of 2024. So now we're over a year later, and now we're just discussing actually some of the repercussions, right, of this long-term travel. And we, of course, it wasn't only backpacking for the sake of it. I don't know how much detail we went in previous episodes, but it also was us dealing with cultural identity, family history, grief. And so I think the fact, it's like what we were saying recently, the fact that you're needing to take time off work for your mind and to get clarity, I don't think it's a surprise, because we had to deal with some quite intense and heavy things. And we obviously deal with it in different ways, but it just shows that, yeah, right in this moment, thinking back about our travels because of the season you're in, it makes it seem a bit muted. But there'll be other times, and maybe other times we sit down to record an episode where actually there's a lot of joy and good memories, right? So I think it is capturing the full exposure of our experiences, really.
Hmm. Yep. So anyway, that's me. How about you?
Um, so yeah, South Africa. I recorded the episode with Ethan. I don't think I talked much about my actual time in South Africa, but it was very impactful for me. It was one of my favorite places during my travels. Also, the longest I stayed somewhere for over the last 18 months. That was the longest that I was somewhere just really connected to like a really cool church. Um, and connected to some other cool optometrists that were working in public eye health. So I was quite nervous. I think when you left India, I remember feeling very sad actually, and even crying a bit when you and David left, and I was on my own, and I knew it'd be months ahead on my own. Um, I'm not really sure about work or what I'll do when I returned, but yeah, South Africa started doing some research projects looking at eye care in different countries and seeing a fascinating and beautiful country with really cool people. And then while I was there, I applied for a job that I'm now working in, which is at Huddersfield University, teaching optometry and being involved in academia. So it feels like South Africa opened up a lot of opportunities with work. And even now, I'm still participating in some of those projects. It's changed the way that I think about optometry, I'd say. And it also made me think differently about church as well, because I went to a new style or denomination of church I hadn't been to. And that was really impactful. And that experience has actually led me to start attending a different church in Leeds, which was a big decision, but I see how that was very impactful. And I've been back approximately 2 months because I came back in July for a few weeks, but then we went to Europe, of course, in for a month in August, September. And that very much felt like part of our travels because we saw friends that we met in each continent of our travels, right? So we met friends in Central America, East Africa, and also in India. We could probably do a whole episode, couldn't we, on just Switzerland, Germany, because it felt maybe we were so out of touch with Europe. To me, it felt as foreign and crazy as our travel in faraway countries, the people we met, the experiences we had. But had some really fun experiences. And it was only after that that I felt like my travels were over. So September, I came back from Germany, started a new job a week and a half later, 10:30 a week and a half after that. And yeah, so there was lots of change in September. October felt like settling in. And now I feel like in this interesting season where there's hope and optimism for work, but sometimes a bit of frustration at the mundane nature of life, which I think is the norm for many people. But yeah, it's been interesting just to see how people think and act in England and just to try touch base. So I think it has been hard. I've probably been distracting myself a little bit with work and projects, not really give myself time to reflect. Lots of change, but again, like I think it's not a surprise that there's challenges after what we had. But I'm so grateful for the time that we had while traveling. It's just the return is yeah pretty tough, isn't it?
Very tough, yeah. And I'm trying to think about also the obviously you coming back, but also I've had more time to reflect since being back on the changes that um have happened, maybe in myself, but for other people. And I think I realized for me, I don't think I reconnected with people since I've come back, or in the same way. So there's still often people feel it when they're about to leave that some people might distance themselves from you or different things. It just there's a different thing. It feels like with your friendships when you know you're about to
Mm,
leave, you're moving a city or moving country or different things. There's something that happens in the air of that relationship, basically because of that. So Since I returned, I the family situation is quite different. Of Benji and I living in a house, but now not short term, but actually could be long term. And older brother living in a separate place, and mum before our travels had been living with my older brother, and so she hadn't actually been living independently. So since coming back, I've seen all the family actually being a lot more independent in some ways of each other, which has been hard, I think, for me to compute, because I was used to just being a bit more closer, but also mum and Benji and I went to the same church, but now all four of us go to four different churches on a Sunday. So it definitely feels that there is a bigger level of separation, I feel, between me and the family, which has been a challenge, but also some friends who I'd say, quite close with before my travels. I haven't reconnected in the same way. And I think part of that was me just trying to deal with staying on top of full-time work with other things and struggling with that, struggling to cope with energy, etc., but also not knowing myself in terms of where I fit in.
Mm.
And I'm not just saying the Justin Bieber song, where do I fit in? Um, but actually, in terms of church, with work, with friendships, in hobbies and everything, right now there's a big question mark over all of those things for me right now. And so there's the detachment happened before the travels, but there hasn't been a reattachment. So it's like a detached retina, basically. Yeah, your eye is still there, but it's not functioning properly. And the longer it's detached, the more pain that you're in, basically. So I'm basically still detached, and I haven't plugged into a lot of things. Basically, I haven't plugged into
Yeah.
regular hobbies, church commitments, um, in terms of like, yeah, different things, basically, um, and so I think I've found that very difficult, actually coming in and seeing Benji kind of hitting the treadmill of work and stuff, and doing that, like, and whereas actually for me, I felt like I haven't stepped on the treadmill properly. Of trying to step on a different treadmill, and recognizing as well friendships, or how people have changed in a year's time.
And we've changed.
We've changed, but the friends who may be in new relationships now, or um like a really good Egyptian friend of mine, he basically, when I came back, he was married, basically, and before that he wasn't. So that's quite a big difference, and adjusting to that. And some friends have had um, an addition of kids to their family, so quite significant changes. But these also kids who are the new additions, I haven't really got to know that, because they were around or born when I was traveling, basically. And so that's been a really interesting one, and I bet there will be other travelers who find this, where you're stepping into a different world, but you don't know where you fit in or slot
Mm.
into that world. And that's and because of that, it's quite a fragile place, I'd say, for me
Yeah.
right now, of not knowing where to put my foot down, in terms of in commitments or different things to do, because it feels like all around me is sinking sand, you could say. So yeah, that's just where I am.
Yeah. I think I think it's also strange of coming back to the same or a familiar place, but the tension, I echo a lot of what you said. And maybe I'm just a bit later on in the journey than you, or in the midst of the early return stage, but that strange idea of being a different person in the same place, that's something that actually, I'd also echo the relational aspect has been a challenge as well. Um, it's like a interesting social experiment, right? Like you take someone out of their comfort in such different situations. I was talking to a friend the other day about how, like, people do obviously change, but I feel like people's circumstances have changed, but they haven't necessarily changed, because there might be less factors causing their personality or things to change. Whereas for us, I just felt it was this pressure cooker of everything in our life changed for this kind of year for you. year and a half for me. Yeah, how friendships and relationships look like. It is a challenge, and I I was struggling a lot before returning. Actually, was a bit unsure about what I'd return to. But what helps me, or the way that I kind of made sense of it, was I thought of it as coming back to the city of Leeds as Leeds 2.0. So I asked myself, if I was new in this city, what would I do? Where would I go? Where would I work and things? And that actually helped me. But having that mentality, that traveling mentality, while we're here, to still keep that sense of awe and wonder and exploration. It's hard, but I think it's possible to do it in a more localized sense. I guess we're trying to figure that out. But yeah, interesting season. And I think, yeah, we can maybe unpack elements of this in future episodes. But I wanted to, yeah, capture this moment of the initial return, and just to catch up our listeners on what we were up to the last few months.
Hmm. Yeah. So I hope that's been helpful and just hearing a bit of our reintegration journey. And I'm sure there'll be much, perhaps more to unpack in the next few months where, um, return to work, but also hope to start processing some of these. Or I think, yeah, part of my question marks are I don't yet understand my story now.
Yeah.
And I used to have a very clear sense of my story before traveling. But since then, it's where the story is and where next to me, it doesn't feel as clear as Benji. So yeah, stay tuned. I look forward to sharing with you and Benji in the next episode.
Yeah, thank you for listening, and hopefully it won't be another 4 months before the next episode. If we take a while, just pester us and we'll keep releasing.